Hello, welcome to History B354, The Reformation. I'm Professor Sock, and I'm your instructor for this course. And I'd like to, first of all, just welcome you all here. This is a course that I enjoy very much indeed teaching because it is a course that deals with my own research, and I'm excited to share that with you. I'll be going through, in this first introductory lecture, things like how to get started, what do you do first, which I hope will be actually watching this lecture. I've also already posted an announcement in terms of you should be reading through the syllabus and the document Introduction to the Course posted in the module course documents. But I'll be going through that again shortly later. I hope that this will allow you easy access to the course and actually to get into the material, because as a summer course, this goes very quickly. It's a very intense course, and so you'll be able to need to really get going on it. But we'll be talking more about that as we go. Okay, getting started then. This slide on getting started. I have posted in the module course documents, which is also where you'll find the syllabus, and you should be reading through the syllabus very carefully. I also should say that the syllabus is a Word document posted in course documents, also in the module getting started, and that really is your guide to the course. There is on the sidebar in Canvas a tab on syllabus. That is not the syllabus. That is simply the assignments that are due. So you'll need to go to that Word document to see what the lecture titles are, what is assigned, the readings that are assigned, when things are due, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that is an essential document that you need to know, and you need to know it very well. But this is a 100% online course, and it is sometimes difficult to feel that we're part of a group. So one of the first things I ask students to do is to post a self-introduction. This is voluntary, and you don't have to reveal anything about yourself that you don't want to reveal. I posted a document, my own introduction to myself. I think it's important that you know who your instructors are. So that document is there for you to read to find out more about me. I've also posted my CV, which is an academic resume, so you can find out even more about me there. And for all of you, just to share with your classmates and with me who you are and maybe why you're here. Why are you taking this course? What do you hope to get out of it? And on we go. So that is something that I hope you'll do right away as well, that self-introduction. Then the syllabus I've already mentioned, the introduction to the course. Those are really the two documents that at this point for you are most important, that you really need to know both of those. And the introduction to the course document goes through some of the things I'll be talking about here. It's actually your guide to the course. I'll be talking about some of the details shortly. But those two documents, I hope you will not ignore as peripheral, because they are the key to this course. So that's being said, we go from there. And then the module course documents is where you'll find all the documents that you need for this course. I'll be talking about the textbook shortly, in addition to the textbook that you'll need to acquire one way or the other. The lectures are important, and the other assigned readings are important. And your grade will be based on how well you apply and analyze the course material, which is the lectures and the textbook and the assigned readings, to the problems given to you. And I'll be saying more about that shortly. So that's kind of the contour of it all, so to speak. I hope you know how to find things. If you don't, you can please ask, and I'll be talking more about that too. And then we move on from getting started, which is watching this first lecture and reading through the syllabus and the introduction to the course, to the structures of the course itself. Now, this course is, as you all know, a summer session course. Now, that is often seen as, so it's going to be shorter, it's going to be lighter, it's going to be easier. That is a misunderstanding. A summer course is a 6-week intensive course of a full semester course. Now, I'm saying this not to freak you out or bother you or scare you off in any way, shape, or form, but just to let you know what you're getting yourselves into. Because there is a lot of work in this course. Now, to be honest, given the time factor, I do not assign as much in this course as I do when I teach the Reformation during the semester. So in that sense, it's just not practical to say, or not quite accurate to say, this is a full 15-week course scrunched into 6 weeks. But that is the idea behind it. And so this will be an intensive 6 weeks during the summer. And what makes it even more difficult in some ways is that this is a 100% online asynchronous course, which means you have to provide the structure yourselves. I much prefer teaching in person, to be honest, but I have tried to construct my online courses that I do teach as closely as possible to an in-person course. So I talk to you with the lectures, the posted lectures. I hope we can have dialogue over email back and forth, or meeting over Zoom, having Zoom meetings, which I'll say more about shortly too. But it is something that you're going to have to say, okay, I need to set my agenda so that I have the time for the course. There are due dates for the midterms, 2 midterms and the final, which we'll be saying more about shortly. But the only firm deadline is the final. But, and this is an important but, given that this is only 6 weeks, if you put things off and wait till the end of the course, you're putting yourself at a huge disadvantage. The midterms are designed to help prepare for the final, and you will get feedback on your midterms. So schedule your time accordingly to do the reading, to listen to the lectures, and to do the preparation and the study of the course material that is necessary for you to do as well as you possibly can. So that is just the warning of the 100% online asynchronous course. The positive to that is that you can do it at your own pace, on your own time, and your own schedule. So you are not meeting at a certain time altogether. So that is kind of, with online courses, there's a positive and a negative to them. And I think we need to take both seriously. And so I would just exhort you to realize the problems involved, to make sure that you have the time that you can dedicate to this course to perform at the highest level of your capabilities. Now, this course, the readings and lectures, I've already said, as part of the course material, are important. That is what the course is based on. This is something that the course is my course, and I take that in some ways very personally. If you were to take the same numbered course in the IU system, B354, the Reformation, from someone else, it would be a very different course. I am an expert in this field. I know what I'm talking about. And I get excited about it because I think it's so important. So the whole point of the exams is not just the topic, the Reformation. It is my course. You've signed up for this course, and that is what you'll be graded on the basis of. And so the assignments, the reading assignments and the lectures are the basis for your grade. So you are going to need to make sure that you realize that, and I'm not going to say follow along, but make sure that this is not an abstract course in the Reformation. This is my course in the Reformation, and that will be the basis of the grading as well. And I'll say maybe a little bit more about that as we go along. But again, just wanting you to know what you're getting yourself into for this. And the helps that are here for the course is not just me. Now, I have up there supplemental instruction. I don't know if any of you have taken courses with a supplemental instructor and a supplemental instruction component. But it's one that I think can be extremely helpful. Our supplemental instructor for this course is Lucy Vogel, And Lucy is an undergraduate student. She has served as the supplemental instructor for this course several times. She's taken this course, has done extremely well. She knows the course extremely well. She knows me very well. And she can help. Now, this is not intended to be a distancing factor, because Lucy is there to help you too. And I hope you will all participate in the supplemental instruction program. And you can always reach out to Lucy. I'm not saying that you can't reach out to me. You certainly can. Again, this is not intended to say that talk to Lucy and don't talk to me. I would very much encourage all of you to talk with me. But I can certainly understand too, and I remember being an undergraduate, that you might have questions or issues that you would feel more comfortable talking with Lucy about than with me. If you are issues and you're struggling to understand, you say, well, Lucy, what the hell is he talking about? And she can explain that, I hope. In any case, that's a comment on me, not on Lucy. Meaning, I hope that she can explain what I'm saying. But she's very good with that. And I can understand that you might not feel comfortable asking me that question. What the hell are we talking about? You can, if you'd like. I'm open to that, okay? But this is an issue for you and to help you. Now, again, I'll say this later when we get to the keys to success, but I would encourage you all to participate in the supplemental instruction, because Lucy does an excellent job, and she's practiced and experienced with all of this, and it can be a huge help to you in terms of getting through the course, what's expected, how do we go about, how I go about grading the course, what am I looking for, and things like that. So that is an added component of this course that I think is very exciting, and I'm very glad that Lucy is once again on board. Now, as already mentioned, with this course, there are 3 assignments, basically 2 midterms and a final. That may not be much, but again, in a 6-week period, that's all we have. So we have 2 weeks, the midterm, 2 weeks, second midterm, and 2 weeks, and then the final. The final is cumulative. It's over the whole course. And the 2 midterms are designed, as I think I've already mentioned, to help you prepare for the final. In so many ways, for me, the final is so important because that is what I hope you get, so to speak, from out of the course. It's what you leave with. And so therefore, the final can be, in terms of your final grade, weighted more than what is stated on the syllabus. But that's not something you should really worry about right now. But the whole point is this whole course is geared towards the final exam. The basis for grading the midterms and the final, as I've already said, is the course material. I've given you a problem, a question. It's a complex question, and I'll be saying more about those when we get there. And how you analyze the course material, how well you grasp and understand the course material, and then apply it to answering the question is the basis for your grade. I will not grade your opinions and beliefs. My view is that those opinions and beliefs are yours, and I'm not going to grade them. But I can grade how well you formulate an argument based on the course material. And that does not to say that you have to agree with me and the positions that I put forward in the lectures. You have to understand them, though. And you're welcome to disagree. But in terms of your midterms and final, if you do disagree, which is fine, you at least have to demonstrate that you understand my position and argument. And then you can argue against it. This is not an issue of, everybody can have their own opinion, and that's fine. That's not what this course is about. The course is about understanding historically the Reformation, or that which we call the Reformation, which I'll be saying a little bit more about shortly. And based on the course material, 1, how well have you understood it and grasped it? 2, can you analyze it sufficiently to use it and apply it to answering a question that's given to you? That I can grade. I can grade your knowledge and understanding of the course material and how well you apply it to answering the question and your argument for it. Now, there's a document in course documents titled Historical Argument. That, too, I think is very important because historical argument is based on evidence. It's different from just arguing. Arguing gets us nowhere. And one of the examples I have often used with students is, we could have a great fun time arguing what is the best flavor of ice cream in the world. Now, I know in my heart of hearts that the best ice cream in the world is Haagen-Dazs French vanilla. And no one can convince me differently. I know that. Now, you may think it's something else. You may think it's, Ben & Jerry's Chunky Monkey or something. And we could go back and forth. But what is the basis for determining who is right? There isn't one. It is a matter of taste, of individual opinion and belief and taste. I'm not going to grade that. I'm not going to grade your taste, your opinions, or your beliefs. Now, if we wanted to say this bowl of stuff that we see here, let's say we have it before us, a bowl, and there's something inside that bowl. We could look at it, and I could say, this is a bowl of Haagen-Dazs French vanilla ice cream. And you could say, no, it's a bowl of Ben & Jerry's Chunky Monkey. That we can determine because the thing itself, that bowl of goop or whatever it is, itself is a thing that is not an opinion or a belief. It's there independently of what I think it is or what you think it is. So we can analyze that thing and determine, yes, this actually is Ben & Jerry's Chunky Monkey. I was wrong. Now that is a banal, almost ridiculous example, but that's the difference between arguing and argument. An argument is based on something quote unquote real that we can analyze and then we can determine what it actually is. Now the course material for this course, the lectures and the assigned readings, both the documents, the source documents, and the textbook, are that Ben & Jerry's Chunky Monkey in the bowl. So what I'm going to be looking at is, are you analyzing that correctly? And are you using it correctly? Not what you think about it or how you feel about it. We're not, there, in that sense, there are no right or wrong answers to the midterms or to the final. There are good answers and bad answers. And good answers are based on the course material. Bad answers are not, or are based on a misunderstanding of the course material, or are based simply on your asserting your own view and opinion, which is not the purpose of this course. Now, there's also weekly discussions, and these are posted in Canvas. And I've always had difficulties with doing discussions online. I think in an in-person course, a class discussion can be really valuable and really helpful. It's different in the online situation. This is not just another assignment. The idea behind the discussions is not that you simply post something and then I'll be grading individual posts. That's not it at all. The discussions are for you. I hope you will read the discussions, what your fellow classmates write, respond to them. You need to be polite, certainly. But the point is to discuss and talk. That's the whole issue. Consider the discussions like going out for a beer after class and talking about the class material. That's what the discussions are for. So I hope you will use them in that way and try to get something out of it. Basically, it's a participation grade. So in terms of the grading of it, the number of points you get on it, as long as you are participating and trying to do so in the spirit in which it was intended, you won't have to worry about your discussion grade. Okay? So don't worry about it. If you have questions about that, you can ask Lucy or you can ask me. But the discussions are there for you. So use them, throw around ideas. I will participate every now and then. I'll check in and look and see if there's something, if the discussion line is really off base, I'll try to jump in and correct that, or I'll pose questions or whatever. And you can pose questions too. You can say, hey, what do you think about this, everybody? That's what the discussions are for. So don't worry about that because your grade is really the midterms and really the final. Okay? Now, that is then the basic structures of the course? And it is, as I said, intense. And it is something that will go by very quickly. So I hope you will, again, provide the structure for yourself to do as well as you can in this course. That all being said, in terms of the practical details and the structure, what is this course really about? And that's where we get to the next slide here: Reform, Reformation, and Revolution. Approaching the Reformation. What do we mean by the Reformation? And that is, in some ways, what this course really is all about. What is the Reformation? The Reformation is a term historians have used to describe a number of events and developments in the past. There's no such thing as the Reformation. How we as scholars, as people, use labels is important. So often, and this is partly the fault of history teaching from elementary school all the way through university, there's a basic fallacy. And the fallacy is that the title of a course is the content of the course. That there is such a thing as the American Revolution, for example, or, modern Britain, for example. That isn't a possibility. There's no such thing. How would you define the United States of America? Well, that's a concept. You say, no, it's not a concept. It's a geographical territory. Okay, we can describe it geographically, that the United States of America is this geographical entity defined by its borders and boundaries. Does that really help us understand what the United States of America is? No. Now, in contemporary political debate, there's a lot of debate going on now, as I'm sure you are aware of, actually what is the United States of America. I'm not going to enter into that debate, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there is one set thing that is the United States of America. It's numerous things. Just think about it. Can we define the United States of America based on California? Can we define the United States of America based on New York? Can we define the United States of America based on North Dakota or Florida? I say absolutely not, even though those are all parts of it. The United States of America is this umbrella label that we place on all kinds of things, from the geography, the actual physical entity, to the government, to past government actions, to the individuals who live within these geographical borders. I could go on and on. The same applies to the Reformation. It's a chronological period. We could say the origins and emergence of early modern Europe. We could describe this course that way as well. We say between approximately 1300 and 1600, Europe changed. Every historian will agree that Europe in 1600 was very different from Europe in 1300. The question is, why and what happened? What led to and brought about that change? That's the historical question. Why? And with that, there's no end to asking why. We can superficially point to a number of different developments in that chronological period. We don't have to call them the Reformation. We could call it whatever we wanted to. And yet, there's a reality there. People lived and died during that period. People believed in things during that period and were willing, as we'll talk about in lectures and so, were willing to die for what they believed. It's a big deal. And change did come about. But why and how? So often we assume we know what the causes are. That's another fallacy of history, I would argue. Namely, one of causation. Is there causation? Oh, yes. I could talk a lot about that. I'm writing about that and have written about that. What causation is and historical causation. but it doesn't really help us to understand. And there's been a philosophical debate going back to the 19th century on the distinction between explanation and understanding. What can we explain, and is explanation the same as understanding, or is understanding something different? And that is not really something I'm going to go into here or in this course, but I can say that this course focuses on understanding more than explanation. Why does something happen? And can we really get at historical causations? What caused you to register for this course? An interest? A need? But why do you have those needs? Why do you have those interests? It goes back and back and back and back. And what I refer to in some of the things I've written, there is an infinite string of causal matrices that if we reduce it to a couple of single or individual causes, we're not going to really grasp what's going on, even though we will think we know. Now, that is especially important, perhaps, in a course such as the Reformation, because whatever we might want to think about it, there's an element of theology. Here, theology and history. This is a course in history at a public university, and how to approach the Reformation had, for so long, since the 16th century itself, been approached from a theological position, a confessional position. Church historians would write the history of the Reformation based on their own beliefs and their own theological positions. A lot of good work came out of that. But it was also more theological often than historical. Now, how do we determine the difference? The statement, Jesus of Nazareth was the incarnation of the second person of the Trinity, was crucified, died, and was buried, and on the third day rose again from the dead, and ascended into heaven, and is seated at the right hand of God the Father, from where he will come again to judge the living and the dead, and his kingdom will have no end. Blah, 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 blah. The creedal statements. For the historian, as historian, whether those statements are true or false is irrelevant. The historian cannot determine historically the truth of those assertions. That's a job for the theologian. And as I'm arguing in the book I'm finishing up now, it's impossible too for the theologian, but that's another issue. But the historian cannot pronounce on that. There's no evidence, because history is based on evidence, that which exists, which we can analyze, that bowl of, Ben and Jerry's chocolate monkey, that we can say, what is this stuff? It's Ben and Jerry's chocolate monkey. Oh, that can be determined. We can't determine that for theological positions. What is, though, important is that people believed that. The beliefs of people are historical evidence. Now, people can believe all kinds of things. The historian cannot, as historian, refute the belief that the earth is flat. You say, what do you mean? Of course it's flat. Or of course it's round. Yeah, I believe that for a second. What I mean by that is the historian can point to the overwhelming evidence that other people have posited, have published on, demonstrating that the earth is a sphere. Can I prove that myself? No, I can't. Gosh, experientially, I experience a flat earth. That's what we often experience. Do I think the earth is flat, though? No, I don't. Of course, it's a globe. But can I prove that it is? No. I can look at the effects of people who have argued that the world was flat, which really was a 19th century development, even though it goes back to the later 16th, early 17th century, the origins of the so-called flat earth. I may address this later in lectures, but every educated person in the Middle Ages and in classical antiquity knew that the Earth was round. That's a whole separate issue. I was the external examiner on a few years ago on a PhD thesis at the University of Bristol that looked at the origins of the flat Earth theory and pushed it back because it had been thought that it was 19th century development. Now, if any of you believe the Earth is flat, that's fine. I'm not going to grade that. But I can grade your arguments for it and whether or not you've taken in all the evidence and dealt with all the evidence. Now, but that's not the point. Okay, I just wanted to use this as an example of the relationship between theology and history. Because in the 1960s or so, historians, social historians, political historians began to say, this is the history of the Reformation has been all determined by theological positions. We know, we enlightened people, that those are all, ridiculous hooey. The opiate of the people, as Marx referred to religion, or as Freud referred to religion as an illusion. And why can we can't talk about that? What we really want to know is what's going on socially and politically and economically. And there began to be a split between the church historical approach and then the social historical approach. And a lot got missed in that opposition. Because all of a sudden there was a division, and the social historians didn't want to deal with the theology, and the church historians or intellectual historians who maybe weren't church historians were still trying to defend their position or saying that theology was important. Now, my approach, what we call a new intellectual history, which is the history of understanding, is based on determining which is the right or wrong position. The question of whether Luther was right or wrong, which was actually the title of a book in the late 50s, and a very good book on Luther, that's not for the historian to answer. What we can analyze is the impact of those beliefs. We can analyze the impact of the beliefs that Jesus of Nazareth was the incarnation of the second person of the Trinity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And as such, that belief has had a huge impact on the development of at least what we call, another label, the West. And the East, too, for that matter. But looking at that aspect of it is not the same as arguing for or assuming the truth of that belief. I could go on about this at great length, and we're in a situation politically now, too, where beliefs are accepted as fact, which is a problem. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, I'll argue. Everybody's entitled to their own theological, philosophical beliefs. I'm not going to grade those, but I can grade how well you argue based on course material, to say again and again. So approaching the Reformation is problematic because of all the theological beliefs that are associated with it. Now, whatever your theological or philosophical background may be, that is not what I'm trying to get at. But what I can get at is the historical relevance of theology. And the social historians, political historians, I feel have dismissed theology because they feel it's bogus. But consequently, they're missing out what was going on. We can't understand what was going on during this period of approximately 1300 to 1600 if we don't understand something about the theology. Why was it that these debates over the meaning of the word is led to war? What? The meaning of the word is? Yeah, the meaning of the word is, as in the words of institution, this is my body. What does that mean? What did it mean? What did it mean to them? Oops. Now, the historian cannot answer the question of, are the elements of bread and wine in the Eucharist, are they transformed into becoming the actual physical body and blood of Christ? The historian cannot answer that question. The historian can analyze the belief of that, or the other belief that we'll see when we get there, that the elements of bread and wine were simply bread and wine and represented the body and blood of Christ. And we can look at the impact of those two beliefs and what difference it made. And why would people go to war for that? Which gets to the whole issue. We have so made theology and religion an issue of individual taste. Going back to the ice cream analogy. It's a personal thing. Oh, in the United States, we have the so-called freedom of religion, the non-establishment clause of the First Amendment, which is not saying that religion and politics are separate. It's saying that the government of the United States may not establish a particular religion. That's a problem. It's a problem for us still today because of the relationship of religion and politics. Now, the historian has to look at the impact, the verifiable impact of beliefs without pronouncing on the truth value of those beliefs. That's what we're getting at. And we will not understand what was going on in the Reformation unless we understand something about the theology. Because the theological beliefs are historical evidence, but not the truth value of those beliefs. Now, if you have questions about this, I hope this helps make sense in terms of distinguishing theology from history. With a theological treatise, for example, we'll be reading, pretty sure you'll be reading Martin Luther's 95 Theses. Yeah, I have to stop and think because I'm not sure. Actually, I haven't signed it. I think I have, but I'm not sure. I always do them in the semester course, but it said cut down. So, 95 Theses is a theological document. We can approach that theologically or historically. We can approach theology historically or theologically. And this is a course that focuses on the historical approach to theology, meaning what was the impact and development of theological positions and ideas, without which we cannot understand this period, not whether or not they're true. Now, I hope that helps. If it doesn't, again, if it's just kind of confusing, please write and ask, because this is an essential distinction to make for this course. The distinction between history and theology. Okay. Defining our terms. And this slide, still on the slide, Reform, Reformation, and Revolution. If you look at the final exam, you will see, and you can look at it right now because it's posted and available right now. Now, the question is on whether or not the Reformation was a revolution. What do we mean? Revolution is also a label. Reformation is a label. Revolution is a label. Reform is a label. I'll be going through some of those in the lectures. And they have different connotations. The labels we use, the terms we use to describe something, usually and so often, condition, if not determine, that which is being described. There is not a right or wrong answer in terms of whether or not the Reformation was a revolution. Depends on what we mean by it. How do we define the terms? In what ways was it? In what ways was it not? Some ways it was revolutionary, or parts of what we call the Reformation were revolutionary. Other parts, I would say, were definitely not revolutionary. And is there a difference between Reformation and Reform? That is a big issue because one of the major distinctions that I bring up and we'll be talking about is something called the Reformation of the Later Middle Ages, which is my term that I introduced in my book, Luther and the Reformation of the Later Middle Ages. Because what was going on in the later Middle Ages, let's say from the 13th through the 15th century, has often been seen as simply reform. Whereas Reformation is a new thing beginning with Luther. Now, I'll be saying a lot more of that in the lectures in terms of critiquing that position. Because when we look at the sources, in the later Middle Ages, the word that is being used is Reformation. And so the key is, what did they understand by Reformation, the term Reformation? Not what we understand by it, but what did they understand by it? And if we limit that and belittle that to say, oh, that's not really Reformation, that's simply reform, we're not going to understand what was going on either. That's the point. We need to know how we use our terms. We need to know what they mean, what they signify, and how we apply them. What are we talking about? Because otherwise we're just talking past everybody in different issues. Is the Reformation then simply what has also been referred to as Protestantism? Is all critique of the medieval church, the medieval hierarchical ecclesiastical hierarchy, Reformation? That's one of the things we'll say, absolutely not. There's critique all along. So what is the difference between Reform, Reformation, and Revolution? And the point here is not really to get at the terms themselves, but rather to say, what are these developments and how do we describe them? Now, I kind of said that's what the course is about. What is this Reformation that we're talking about? We can say that it's European history from approximately 1300 to approximately 1600. Okay, great. But then what? So what? What happened? And why did it happen? How are we to understand it? That's what we're getting at. Coming to an understanding of the actual artifacts, those things that exist, those texts, those documents, those remains of towns and cities and walls. What do they mean? What do they mean for us? That's what we have to get at. That's what we're looking for as we go through this course. And that gets at then the historical importance of the Reformation, which really was the major development, whatever we refer to as the Reformation, of the emergence of another label, the label of early modern Europe, whereby Europe, again, in 1600 is different from Europe in 1300. The issue is why and how, and what does that mean? We cannot understand European history if we don't understand something about the Reformation. We can't understand the Reformation unless we understand something about the Middle Ages. And on we could go, all the way back. Historical periodization is not a given, it's a construct. But some of these constructed periods have become so ingrained in the educational system and in our consciousness that we think they are things. And they're not. They're simply concepts to categorize a group. We could split up history in different ways, with different labels, and it wouldn't change what the evidence is. It would simply change our understanding of it. And that is what I'm getting at in terms of this course and the understanding of what the Reformation really was. What does it mean? What does it signify? How do we understand the developments between 1300 and 1600, so to speak, based on the evidence that exists? That is a big task, but it's an essential task because it questions ourselves. It questions our own understanding. And it questions all the assumptions we make about how history works, how theology works, how Reformation, what Reformation is. And it causes us to think again about what it's all about. But we will not understand, I would argue, Europe today if we don't understand something about the Reformation. Why do I say? Well, I can make all kinds of connections. Because it's during the Reformation that we see the emergence, really, of nation states, at least in an early sense. And the great development in the 19th century of nationalism and nation states was based on that original kind of split. Because Europe in the Middle Ages, I'll be saying more about this in the next lecture or so, it was not uniform. It was not one homogeneous entity. It was very diverse, and there was debates and arguments and structures and critiques all over the place, but the overriding concept was that this is Christendom. We're like one family. Now, and this is not to assume anything about anybody's familial background, but families somehow fight. And maybe yours didn't. Brothers and sisters will fight. Brothers will fight with brothers. Brothers will fight with sisters. Sisters will fight with sisters. And all siblings will fight with their parents. And there's conflict. And yet there's still this understanding we are a family in some sense. And if someone outside attacks us, we bind together. That phenomenon was sort of what the concept of Christendom was like. I'll be saying a lot more about Christendom. So there's all those debates going back to the 5th century over who was in charge of Christendom, who actually ruled it. Was it the Pope or the Emperor? That was never settled. There was conflicts throughout. And yet still, when the concept of we are being threatened from without came about, we binded together. Now, in the early modern period, that family concept of Christendom broke apart. We can see that as a good thing, or we can see it as a bad thing, depending on your positions and opinions and beliefs. And historically, we can't really say that it was a major contributor to the further development of Europe because we can't compare it with anything. We have to look at what is and not what could have been. We can't go back as historians and rerun things and taking out one variable and putting it back in. But what we can say is that this change occurred, and how did it occur, and why did it occur, and what are the components of it? That's what we're getting at. And the historical importance of the Reformation is not just for theology, it is for European history as such, and also for American history as such. Why did the Pilgrims come to the New World? What was going on? What was behind that? We can't understand that unless we understand something about what's called the Reformation in England, or the English Reformation, and Elizabeth I, which is a direct tie into the history of the United States. So all of these factors come together to say, oh my God, everything is connected. And it is, and it's overwhelming. So the question is, can we understand anything at all? And it's like difficult. But we can only do what we can do. We won't get the absolute truth. But we can come to a deeper, broader, more sophisticated understanding of that which happened than we had before. And that is the point of this course in so many ways. Now, where are we? We go to the keys to success. How to be successful in this course. We'll have up here this whole list: engagement and involvement. Indeed, if you're engaged, you will do better than if you're not. If you approach this as, oh yeah, I just wanted to get 3 credits over the summer. I thought it would be an easy course because it's a summer course and it's an online course. So 2 myths: that summer courses are easier and that online courses are easier. Well, that's not the case for this course. If you approach it as, I'll just do it kind of without even paying attention much, I almost can guarantee you that you will not do well. Now, how do you get engaged? You have to find something of interest for yourself. You have to find something that you question and want to know more about. Because if you're interested in something, that will help you get through all the drudgery. And I'm sorry, but studying is drudgery. It doesn't mean you can't love it. There are times like, well, do I really want to read all of that? But yes, I need to, and I want to, because I find it so interesting. So try to find your own interest within this course and use that as a way to help get you through and keep you engaged. I've already mentioned about time management as an important aspect to doing well in this course. And then reaching out and asking for help if you are struggling. If you listen to the lectures and say, I just can't understand it all, reach out. Write to Lucy. Ask Lucy. Ask me. and participate. Take an active engagement in the course because you are responsible for your own learning. This is not something that you register for the course, you pay for it, and then you sit back and expect me to give you something. No, this is you're paying for the opportunity to get something for yourselves that you have to go get. It can't be given to you. My job is to do everything I can to help with that, to offer it. Kind of the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. My job is to lead the horse to the water, but the horse has to drink. So your responsibility is to do the work and to be engaged and to reach out if you have problems and issues that you're not understanding something. That is an issue. And Lucy is here to help, and I am here to help. And there we participate in the supplemental instruction program. That can be a big help. It has been for students in the past. It's not required, but it is highly encouraged. So if you do not participate in the supplemental instruction program, that in and of itself will not affect your grade. But I can almost guarantee you a one-to-one correlation between students who do participate in the supplemental instruction program and the students who do really well in the course in terms of their final grade. So it's there to help you engage, be involved, answer questions, solve quandaries and issues. And you can also ask me, as both of us are here to help with that. Now, question everything. What do I mean? Question everything is question yourselves. Question me. If I make a statement, on what basis am I making that? Is it simply my own personal beliefs? Well, sometimes I'll be sharing my personal beliefs, not really theologically, but my beliefs about the historical evidence. Ask, why do I believe that? One of the big things is, we'll be talking later about it in lectures. The Reformation, with Luther's Reformation, really only began in February of 1520. Why? Why do I say that? What's that based on? It's not something I just picked out of my head. Question. Why do you think it began at some other point? Or, why haven't you ever heard of Martin Luther? I'm assuming everybody has, but if you haven't, that's fine too. Question yourself. Question the material, because questioning leads to understanding. And there I have, again, special interests, which I've already talked about. But I don't expect everybody to be as interested in the things that I'm interested in as I am. But it will help with the course, as I've already said, if there's something there that you find of interest. So ask yourself, make it almost a game. If you just think, oh my gosh, where is my special interest? What do I find of interest and exciting? Now you may find all of it exciting. I do. And then great. But use that to your own benefit to help you get through all the work, because this is a lot of work. Now, relating particulars and the general is important for your exams, because for the midterm and the final, you have to make general statements, but you have to support them with the details and specifics. If I had to point to one lack in the exams and finals in this course, in general, that students have sometimes a difficulty with, or if I point to what is my most frequently mentioned piece of feedback on exams, it would be a lack of detail and specifics. Back up everything you say. And this, too, is where the historical argumentation or argument document is really important, because historical argument is very much like legal argument. You can't just say, Your Honor, my client's innocent. He's a good guy, never did it, I know that. Blah, 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 blah. You have to present evidence, and evidence is the details and the specifics. And what services as details and specifics for this course is the course material, the lectures, the readings, both the textbook and the documents. You should demonstrate your understanding, and I am the judge that you have to present your case to. So relating the specific details to a general scheme is what understanding in some ways is all about, is insight into the particulars. It's not the same as opinion or belief. Those are, or taste. I'm not going to grade those, but I can grade how well you analyze the course material, the specifics and the details, and how you relate that to your overall point. That's the point of the midterms and the final, which then demonstrate your new understanding of the course material dealing with the Reformation. That's what this is all about. And finally, dare to challenge yourself. Challenging yourself will help you in this course. Don't just assume. You don't need to become uncomfortable. In some ways, I tell my students often in course and in person, I hope to offend everybody. I don't really want to offend you, but I want to challenge you. From whatever perspective you come from, whatever background you come from, I want to challenge you. And being challenged is uncomfortable. And so we can be offended. Now, I'm not going to go off on the whole being offensive issue. But I want to challenge you. Because we don't learn. If we don't do something difficult and challenging, we'll never do anything. Learning is a process. And it's uncomfortable. It can also be exciting. So be willing to throw everything open. To say, why do I believe what I believe? Why do I think what I think? What's it based on? I don't mean to undermine anybody's personal beliefs. Rather, I hope to provide a structure for all of you to analyze your own beliefs and to come to a deeper understanding of yourself, whatever that might be. So ask yourself, why do I believe what I believe? Why do I think what I think? Throw it open. Dare to go into new territory. Now, for some of you, maybe this course is, as such, is new territory. It's foreign, and it is. I can say a lot about that, but I won't. Probably you're getting tired of listening to me, but you're going to have to listen to me for the next 6 weeks, or now 5.5 weeks. But that will help you confront the course material. And the more you can confront the course material, personally as well as academically, the deeper to understanding you will develop, and how you defend and present that understanding will be the basis for your grade. Now, that, I think, covers about what I wanted to say for today. Again, if you have any questions, email me, esaak@iu.edu. Reach out. Reach out to Lucy. Reach out to me. Be involved. Be engaged. And I hope you have a great time. I hope you enjoy this course. And I hope you get a lot out of it for yourselves. And Lucy and I are here to help. But the responsibility for this course is on you. You have to drink. We can lead you to the water, but you have to drink. And I hope you'll drink deeply and a lot, so to speak. I'm not sure that really helps. But anyway, that's the idea behind it. So good luck. Get ready. We have 6 intense weeks. We're now 5.5 left because this is the first lecture. And I will be seeing you again very shortly with lecture 2. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.